How's it going, everyone? This is Zach. Welcome to the Last Llama Gaming channel. Today I am back with another build for Warhammer Chaosbane. I'm back with Bragi. I did a bleed build for him. Now I'm doing a pure rage build. So I'm going to be using the Challenger set, which looks pretty sweet with the glowing runes on them. So over here we're going to be playing on Chaos 5. You can check out my attack and defense values. This attack value is going to skyrocket once we get in game up into the millions. It's actually pretty crazy. So I'm going to show you the gear, the skills and passives, as well as some gameplay. So let's get right into it. Okay guys, so getting into the gear, as you can see we have the full set of the challenge gear equipped. The set bonus for this is it increases a rage damage bonus. So you're getting 80% extra damage whenever rage is active, which is all the time with this build. And the last bastion skill is improved. So I'll get into exactly what the last bastion is once we get into the skills. But go ahead and equip this set. And then take a look at our rings down here. These are the rings I used on my other build. One gives you a cooldown reduction chance, and the other gives me a chance to restore some health and energy on a critical hit. Now if you can get 2 of these fiery ring of Thories for the extra cooldown reduction chance, I would go ahead and equip one in the second slot. But if you can't get one with the proper stats on it, like damage or crit chance or crit damage or anything like that, I think it's still better to equip a ring that gives you those stats. I have the mountain pendant up here for my amulet. Hitting an enemy has a chance to reduce the current cooldown and grant energy. So this is very useful, and I have some good stats on it. What I've learned about Bragi is cooldown reduction on him is very nice because his abilities do a ton of damage and you want them up as much as possible. Alright, so checking out our weapons, I have the last fight in one slot. So this is going to lower your health regeneration by a lot, but it's going to increase your critical hit damage by 100%. So that is obviously a huge boost to critical hit damage. This is well worth having on almost every build with Bragi. Now in my other slot I have Victor's Tribute, which when rage is active I take 10% more damage, but I deal 50% more damage. So with my experience, it's best to mix his axes. I'm not quite sure if they stack or not. I've tested it out, but as far as I can tell, whenever I mix the axes I get better damage. So I did equip 2 last fights because I figured, hey, 200% extra critical hit damage is better than 100% critical hit damage and 50% base damage, but it's really not. This is going to boost your damage way more than having 2 last fights. So yeah guys, for this build, Victor's Tribute is absolutely necessary, and last fight is very important as well, so I definitely recommend equipping these 2 specific axes. So getting into the blessings, if you take a look at all of my armor pieces, I have put armor and max health on them. So the reason I did this was the small boost to damage you get from critical hit chance and flat damage isn't going to boost your damage by a ton, and you're already pumping out so much damage on this build you don't really need it. But on Chaos 4 and 5 and even 3, you're going to be taking a lot of damage, so this extra defense is going to help a lot. However, on the weapons, on my 2 axes, I do have critical hit chance and flat damage, as well as my amulet and my rings. So this is a mix of defense and offense, and I highly recommend you put some defense in this build instead of going full offense. Alright guys, so here's how you bless for the critical hit chance and the flat damage. So you're going to want to put a red and a green in these 2 slots and then link them, and then you can put a red or orange gem in all of the other slots. These 4 are going to give you your flat damage, and these 2 linked are going to give you the critical hit chance. And then this is how you bless for armor and health. So a blue and a green go in the link slots right here. Go ahead and link them. This is going to give you your armor. And then whatever gems you put up here, blue or green, this is going to give you your health boost. Okay guys, so getting into the skills, our basic attack is the Axe Throw Superior. This is the one that causes bleed. I recommend equipping this one over the stun because you do want to inflict some bleed on this build. This isn't a full bleed build, but bleed damage does help. Secondly, you want to have Shred mastered. You pretty much need this skill to regain some health as you fight. If you don't have at least 1 health regen skill on here, you're going to be at low health for much of the fight. So this also does a lot of damage. So this is a very good skill. I think I have it on all the builds I have for him. And the mastered version is also going to inflict bleed on enemies. Then we have the Last Bastion Heroic. So this is gonna increase your health and your energy. So as long as you have rage when you use this, it's gonna heal you, and it's gonna give you 5 stacks of rage. Rage goes up to 20 stacks, and the higher the stack, the more damage you do. So with this and the low cooldown I have on this build, you should be able to sit at least between 10 and 20 stacks of rage at all times. And you're also going to use this as a heal when you get in trouble. Then I have Avenging Charge, the standard version, just for a mobility skill to get in and out of fights. Strike of the Anvil. Now this is where you're going to see the huge damage numbers that come from this build. But you want to pick the master version of this because it's going to be on such a low cooldown. You can pretty much jump every other second, and it's going to be doing millions of damage each time. This is your highest damaging ability, and without this ability, this build does not work very well. And then lastly, we have Ancestor's Gift. I chose this because when you get in trouble, you want to pop this and then heal up with Shred. And it's also a get out of jail free card pretty much. Anytime you know you're about to take a hit and you have it up, pop it. It's going to save your life. And it's a very useful survivability tool on the higher chaos difficulties. Getting into the passives, I have Spite Smite Superior. Grants a damage bonus against enemies with low health. So enemies with 40% or lower health are going to take plus 20% damage. That is a huge damage bonus, and it's going to help you finish off enemies much quicker. I have Eternal Grudge Superior. Rage lasts longer and is more effective. Very good for this build as we depend on rage for our damage. Blood of the Dawi, the lower your health, the less damage taken, and the longer duration of rage. Once again, a boost to rage. Always good, especially for this build. Trail of Blood, bleeding enemies take more damage, and the damage increases based on the number of bleeding enemies. So since we do have a couple bleed skills on this build, Shred and Axe Throw Superior, I figured this passive is a decent passive just to give us that extra damage boost when we do use these abilities and cause bleed. And then finally, I have Relentless Carnage Mastered. Using a skill with an energy cost increases damage from skills with no energy cost, and vice versa. So say you hop with Strike of the Anvil and you do a lot of damage, and then you go right into Shred. You're going to be doing more damage with Shred, and then vice versa. If you use Shred and then hop, you're going to increase the huge damage numbers on Strike of the Anvil even more. And then lastly, I have the Blessed Talisman for 5% extra critical hit chance. This is a pretty low passive in the Collector's Guild. It's the first one you unlock after you hit rank 10. If you're at this point in the game, you either have this or you're very close to, and it does boost your damage by a lot. You can see if I take it off, I have 57,000 almost. If I take it off, it drops to by about 5,000 damage. Alright guys, and getting into the God skill tree, I recommend taking this bottom branch all the way down to get this cooldown reduction. So you're going to get, I think, a total of 8% cooldown from this one branch right here, which is very good for this build for Strike of the Anvil, Ancestor's Gift, and Last Bastion Heroic. Then branch off to the right here, pick up Ancestor's Gift, and then come over here and pick up an extra 5% cooldown reduction. And I took these to counteract the maximum health loss I take over here. After you get this cooldown reduction, take a left, and this is the critical damage path. I literally only go this way to get the extra critical hit damage. You do want to pick this one up even though it gives you minus 10% maximum health, just because you get so much extra critical hit damage right here. You get 75% off of these 3 clustered nodes. If you follow this exact path, these are the stats you're going to get. You're going to get 13% cooldown reduction and 150% critical damage, as well as 26% flat damage. So this is a super offensive oriented build, and you're getting a ton of critical hit damage as well as flat damage. Alright guys, getting into some gameplay. As you can see, we are on Chaos 5. We're just in a regular expedition. Alright guys, so the ability rotation for this build is pretty simple. You just want to pop your Last Bastion as much as possible. You want to spam jump on enemies, and if you get in trouble, go ahead and use your Ancestor's Gift and then spam Shred for that extra health regain. And that's pretty much the entire build. Use your Avenging Charge when you get in trouble, and then use your Axe Throws to build energy and inflict bleed to get that extra damage boost. So I'll play a minute or two of gameplay just so you can check out the rotation as well as the damage numbers. Alright guys, real quick before I end the gameplay, check out the damage numbers I got going on right here. So this is at max rage. We're doing 1.6 million damage and 712,000 defense. This is about the highest attack rating in the game I have seen. I know it will be even higher if you have optimized gear as well as a full set of green gear. But yeah, this is just insane compared to other character builds I've had. None of the other characters I've seen can even come close to hitting 10 million crits or 13 million crits like he does fairly consistently with this build. As you can see right there, I did a 13 million crit. And that is the full build, guys. So this build is best for expeditions and relic hunts. I've used it on bosses, but since your critical hit chance is mostly good when you're hitting a ton of enemies at once to get those crits, when you use it against a boss and you only have a 30% chance to hit that one target, you're really not hitting crits that often and you're not chunking their health bars with those huge crits. So I have used it on bosses. It does work, but it's not the best. I think the bleed build I released previous to this one is actually better for bosses, even though it does much less damage than this build. But this build can get you through Chaos 5, as you just saw, and some relic hunts on Chaos 5 to get you that green gear. And if I was going to farm for those pieces, this is the build I would use. So if you stuck around this long, I would like to thank you for watching. If you're enjoying the builds and the gaming content, consider leaving a like and subscribing. I'll be posting many more in the future for Warhammer as well as other games. So stick around for those, and I will see you in the next video.